If you have not been speaking your truth for decades now, and it's been holding you back in life, you need to watch this. I would like you to meet Deb, who experienced an extremely traumatic first day of her second grade school year. And it's all because she authentically shared who she was to her classroom. Not authentically being yourself and speaking your truth can come in many different forms, and it can impact all areas of your life. Watch this YouTube video where in less than 60 minutes, Deb and I cleared decades of fear, insecurity, confusion, and identity displacement using my Heart-Centered NLP coaching method. If you watch the full video, by the end, you yourself will receive some of your own personal insights or relief, your inner child who is still holding back and doesn't know exactly how to break free.
Well, it's just going to be very chill. I'm just going to do my thing, and there's going to be some sort of awesome upgrade transformation by the end, and we'll see what that is and where that is. Do you want to just start by telling me a little bit of the reason why you wanted to do the session, what's coming up for you that you want to team up with and help?
Yeah. Well, I do have an upcoming surgery, which that surgery is for my neck, in the whole from C3 to C7. And I'm very much one that if something major comes up in life, I like to look at, well, why is this presenting in my life? What does this mean? And what does it mean for me to upgrade, especially if it's something health or something major? And this definitely is. So as I was taking it to the unconscious and higher self, I kept getting this feeling and knowing that this was because I've been holding off a lot of terror barriers of putting myself out there, so to speak, as a coach. Um, Wanting to, but then not really doing it as much as I should, that kind of a thing. And I've known about my calling, so to speak, since the age of 8. And here I just turned 60. So I've been dragging my feet a while. Um, and I say that because I was literally, I had an experience at the age of 8 that I had a lucid dream where I was pulled out of my body. And then, I walked through walls. I went up to my, and when I realized I was outside, I saw myself sleeping in the bed and the whole room filled with light. And basically was told, hey, you're in this life to serve others, to help others evolve, teach them spiritual things, help them to live better lives. And I woke up and then it was funny because I immediately had an experience that same day that shut me down. Because I woke up really excited because that same day, that morning that I woke up, it was my first day in a new school, starting second grade. And got up at the first, beginning of the class. The teacher had us go all up, and um, I've told the story so many times. I went up to the front of the class because she was asking us to tell each other what we did for the summer. Well, I told about the experience I had had the night before because I wanted to start. Hey, I'm going to start then. And I was talking about, hey, I was outside of my body, and I was trying to tell we're not this physical thing. We're eternal. We're beyond this. And I was so excited. And I'm saying this to all my second grade new classmates, and their faces of terror, all of that just, and I remember that day so clearly, I just shut down. And it's been hard to get beyond that. I've done a lot of, the techniques we use. But it's been hard to get past. And I think there's also maybe more than that because I do sometimes have other memories, other feelings that just as I do some of the techniques we use to try to get past some of those blocks, I keep feeling this constriction around my neck, like my words have gotten me in trouble more than just this life, possibly. I don't know. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you for sharing that with me. You said it was hard to get past this, like hard to get past second grade, the first day of second grade.
Um, yeah, not just that day, but the repercussions thereafter, because it continued. It was numerous days. I was called witchy from that point forward, and I also had other experiences too with just saying my who I was, talking about my beliefs at that point in time, which were different than the rest of my family. I was born into a family where we were two different religions. I was brought up in a more spiritual vein, doing meditations and things like that with my dad. Um, and then my mother and my brothers were different because they were from a different. We had the same mother, but my brothers had a different father.
Yeah.
So there was this divide too, and anything I said, I got in trouble from with them. So it ended up being like the cause. My words and who I was and what I said was all kind of the cause of them eventually kicking me out of the family. So I see a pattern. It started kind of there in second grade, but it was continued throughout my life with event after event after event.
Well, start at the beginning and then go through all the events and then
Yeah.
like basically reestablish a connection between before then and now.
Yeah.
So what would be the best way for you to visualize and imagine you physically, the age you are now, all the lessons and learnings that you've learned, the relationship with the divine presence that you developed, everything, all the resources that you have to have this current version of you, like time travel back into the first day of second grade, you physically? What would that look like? Would it be like the Back to the Future car? Would it be like a magic carpet ride going through a sacred door? How would that work best?
Mm. I like the sacred door. Yeah.
So then just kind of see the closest door to you. And the way I see it in my mind, but you tell me if it's different, it's almost like a doorway, but it's all full of light. And then when you
Yeah,
step through it,
exactly.
it just transports you, not like in Star Trek where it takes your molecules and remoleculizes you over here. I don't even know if that's a word, but it's not that. It's just more like stepping through the door and it like
Yeah.
puts two different times and space together. And that's what it's doing.
Yeah.
So see walking through the door
It's like
now,
a portal.
a portal,
Yeah.
exactly,
Yeah.
portal of light.
Yeah.
And then see yourself walking through that with all the resources and whoever you want to bring with you too. And let me know when you're in the classroom as the age you are now.
Amen.
And then see if you can, if this makes any sort of sense, walk in, if the younger you, first day of second grade of you, version of you is cool with it, if you can walk like inside of her body and then take
Okay.
over.
Okay.
So just like, tap on the shoulder, hey, I'm your future self and I have the resources for you. Do you mind if I take team and help
Yeah.
you take this one for you?
Okay. Yeah. Do
Okay.
it. She was
So
cool with
now
it.
there's you standing there now. I mean, she can be so you come inside of her and grow up. So she's inside of you with the divine.
Mhm.
And you can see yourself going to the front and then
Okay.
in this moment, sharing whatever truth that you want to share. And it doesn't matter if they don't understand, if they're not ready for it. Like if you thought that you were
Mhm.
there to share your insight, your deep spiritual insight with everybody, which is, I can relate because I used to do that. That's not who it was for. I mean, number one, it was for you. And we get these divine insights, but we don't have to tell people about it. We just want to tell people about it because it's really, we think it's so cool. Maybe somebody else might think it's so cool, and they're out there. It's just generally not close to our childhood. Generally, when we get these deep spiritual insights, a lot of people, we cannot share it with people around us, which is strange, but it's also a part of the development part of the plan. You can see yourself in the front of the classroom and just speak from your heart, and they can take it however they have total freedom. You have total freedom to share what you want. They have total freedom to receive it however they want to. They can distort it, they can delete it, they can generalize it, they can internalize it, they could do whatever. Everybody, however many people there are in the room, that's how many opportunities of freedom there is.
Oh my gosh. I just realized as I'm doing that, it did change the world for the teacher.
How so?
Well, as I'm speaking it and saying it, I'm seeing how it's like seeing who it touched and who it didn't, almost like this light kind of being lit up. And there's a few little light bulbs going off, just little flickers, here and there. Most of them are, dark, but little tiny flickers. And then one in the back of the room I saw was just, and I don't know, as I was a teacher, I'm like, okay, it was interesting. Yeah.
And it wasn't quite the same, but I remember like third grade. Third grade, I had how they used to do in our elementary. You had a homeroom teacher, like your main teacher, but then you had like a social studies teacher and a science teacher. I think that's what it was. And then like you would go like mostly, and we would be in our class, but then lunch, and then go like an hour in a different class, and then a different hour or something like that in gym. But we had just a main teacher. And our teacher in third grade was Mrs. Whalen. I remember her. She had so much light, and she just taught through her heart. Like it felt like out of all my grades, that was the best grade, third grade. And she just was so cool. And I remember like, I'm just me trying to figure out myself in the world. And I didn't really get to pick out my clothes. I mean, I could pick out what I would want to wear, but I didn't pick out for shopping. And my parents just got me what they got me, and I had to wear that. And I don't care. To this day, I would do the same thing. So for some reason, I don't even know how this happened, but I got like a all purple sweatsuit, sweatshirt, sweatpants, and I wore it to school, and I felt really comfortable. I felt really cool. Um, felt like Grimace maybe from McDonald's. But and I don't know if people were making fun of me. I think they might have been, but it didn't really. If I asked my unconscious mind, I'm sure they were making fun of me because they wouldn't want to wear like purple or all one out color or something like that. For whatever reason. And I just remember the kids must have been picking on me. And I remember she asked me after lunch or something like, can you come to my desk? There's something I want to give you. And I was like, okay, I had no idea what it was. And then she sat me down, and then she's like, I got something very special for you. And I was like, what, for me? And she gave me this little juice box, like a little kid juice box. It was a grape juice box. I don't remember what
Aw.
name of it, but it was grape. And then so she had one. She's like, I gave you this juice box, and then so I opened it up because it was so fun. Loved juice boxes at the time. And then she drank one too, and we were just like cheers, I think. And I think she was just generally just asking how. She didn't say like, oh, kids were picking on you or anything like that. She just like, we had this moment. It was like, I don't know how many minutes. Could have been 5 minutes, could have been 20. I don't know. But it was a juice box moment. And then she said, like, I just felt really special. And she said, this way,
Yeah.
it's grape. So if you spill on yourself, no one will notice. And I thought that was kind of cute. I was like, yeah, you're right. I wouldn't notice. And so I don't know. It was really cute. But then I also had like, it wasn't my main teacher. Her name is Mrs. Schrankler. So Mrs. Whalen sounds like a kind of a pretty name. Mrs. Schrankler kind of sounds rigid. She was kind of like militant. she
Oh,
wasn't like divisive or demonic, but there was more dark. And looking back, like what we're doing with you now, when I looked back, and this happened, I actually, honestly, this week, for some reason, this is the reason it came to my awareness. And Mrs. Whalen just had a lot of love in her heart. She had a really good home life. Her heart was open. Mrs. Schrankler,
yeah,
on the other hand, she was rigid. I think she had, it's not gonna be right or wrong, but she had like short hair. She was kind of more round body type, dressed like a librarian. She just wasn't very happy, just for whatever reason. So like I'm really grateful I only had, I think, social studies with her. But I just like looking back, teachers are people too. Like we don't see them as people or kids. They're like authority figures, but we can really touch people's lives.
yeah,
That was a special moment for me. And I feel like it was a special moment for her too, because it feels good to give. It feels good to make people feel
yeah,
special.
yeah,
But I can imagine from your teacher, of how like teachers really, for the most part, I can't say it now in 2025, but when growing up, how we grew up, teachers for the most part wanted kids to go off and do something really good in the world.
yeah,
And that was like there was no other agenda than that. Just like be yourself and do something good in the world. So when they have people like you every once in a while speak your authentic truth, like that can be, I can see how it'd be really rewarding. And
yeah,
teacher, it's not a one-way thing. I teach, you listen. It's more, unless like a nun kind of a thing in certain
yeah,
time periods, but like in normal like school, how we grew up, the teachers would teach, but they would get golden nuggets, and they would
yeah,
like being around innocence and like, yeah. So I can see how that would be a really, really big deal for
yeah,
a teacher and you.
yeah. And it's funny, I never had even ever considered that till this moment. It was just this. I looked at those that it wasn't for. Uh, you know,
Correct.
exactly. It was more. I was so focused on the fact that it didn't land with
The people it didn't land with.
the people it didn't land with, and those were my focus from that point forward. That's what made me shut down, was I was paying attention to those that the message wasn't for, and I didn't realize those that it did light up, you know, and did
That's
land with.
that's part of evolution. That's part of personal development, is when we're younger, we're all born self-centered. We feel like we're the center of the universe. That's our experience. And our parents are like gods, they're God. And
Mhm.
as we start to, like, our parents first say no to us, then I was like, wait, what, you can do that? Like, we don't know our parents can say no until they do, and they're like, that don't feel good, don't do that again. But they have to, and it's part of life. And then we realize they're, people too. But if we don't develop emotionally, our emotional intelligence, then we'll respond that same way. Which, like, if we get stunted, which this part of you got stunted at a certain age, then in certain contexts we replay or resort back to the level of development that we had when we were stunted.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense. And it
Incidents.
go ahead.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead.
It makes sense. I was just thinking it makes sense why it was a repetitive pattern from that point forward.
Because it says heal me, upgrade now. Okay, how about now? Okay, how about
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
It's going to keep stunted parts, disconnected parts, separated parts are always going to try. They're never going to give up. And if they try long enough and we evolve enough, we're going to connect, and it's going to do what we're doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So how does that feel right now? That whole scenario with the classroom, speaking up, now kind of having that internal shift, pivotal, monumental shift to focus on the people that it did land. And so what you didn't realize before, it was just like one experience. It was from an ego standpoint, meaning like, I'm going to put myself out there authentically, not reading the room. You didn't read the room because you didn't know how to read the room. So you just shared what was in your heart, and it didn't land. And then you identified with that, not knowing that there's multiple players of the game, how many students, that's that number. Plus there's you, which is separate. Plus there's a teacher, which is separate. And so when we kind of like, instead if it's one thing and then we actually can see all the players of the game, well, it wasn't for these people, so that makes sense. It was for these people, so that makes sense. So we can let go of what didn't work, what didn't land, who it wasn't intended for. And then actually like celebrate or take the positive stuff, which is this is number one, it's for you. That's what I've learned is in speaking and communicating and evolving is the older we get, more evolved, I say, but older with wisdom, we shouldn't speak unless it's for ourselves. Like, meaning there's that saying is like, is it positive? Is it kind? Is it helpful? Things like that. And so like I think it's called think actually, like, is it true? If it's not true, don't speak it. H, is it helpful? If it's not helpful, don't share it. I don't remember what I is. It intelligent? I don't think that's what it is. Let me circle back to I. N and K. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to come back to
Necessary,
it.
kind. Yeah.
There you go. There you go.
I kind of, yeah, I remember there was necessary, kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I
was
don't remember what I is. It was I. I don't remember.
important.
But important. I think that's what it was. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just like starting to even use that, and like as we evolve, asking the question, like, is this information for this? Who's it for? If we don't know who it's for, maybe don't say it. And it's not like out of a fear thing. It's just more of like a practice of development, and to know like I'm going to speak this irregardless, unconditionally of what anybody else says. And if they have a response, that's still my truth. And maybe I won't repeat it or talk more about it with that person. That's fine. But I feel good about it. Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah. Because I feel like part of it was, going back in that moment as now that I hadn't even realized that being that authentic changed someone's life. And I didn't even realize it. The teacher never spoke to me about it, never said anything. But I remember I had a really close relationship with that person. I was brand new in the school. So I was just thinking after that day that she was just, making me feel good and welcoming. And I remember everything with that teacher was awesome. And now I look back, I'm feeling into it and I go, oh, there was more to it than just that.
Mm-hmm.
And I see that, it's like, oh, and because I was so authentic, that let her be that with me too. There was a comfort level from day one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's neat.
So ask your unconscious mind or the divine. What we're going to be doing is coming back through that sacred doorway, bringing back your current self, but then also the younger you that just learned the lesson, doesn't need to be there anymore. It can take away the deeper spiritual lesson behind the experience and just leave all the other stuff behind that just doesn't serve you.
Okay.
So have your unconscious mind or the divine decide what or who is coming back through the door into the room that you're in right now. And go ahead and have it just do that and let me know when you're completely back and here now.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
in the present moment, the younger you can be coming inside if she hasn't done it already. And then now you have the present you, the younger you, and the divine presence, the higher you, higher consciousness, however you want to frame it. The three can eventually turn into one total integrated being only as quickly as the divine in your unconscious mind sees fit. It can happen in a matter of seconds or minutes or hours or even weeks, whatever would work best.
Yeah. Mm. Mm. Feels pretty integrated.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that younger self is feeling good to be here now, and with the understanding that they have been given. It's that, yeah, it feels, and then even that future self that I'm meant to be. So I keep hearing you're meant to be authentic and teach authenticity. It's
Yeah.
interesting. That's what I've been feeling for the longest time of, and always questioning in the back of my mind, well, how can I teach what I don't even have the guts to do? But that was it, because I kept being told over and over again about teaching authenticity and the strength to be that, and that's what this is.
And one thing
Speaking
that
of
would
it.
really help you is, I don't mean to interrupt, sometimes my mouth just starts speaking. Um, but one thing that would really help you is to watch the laughs, because the laughs has been a
Mm.
protection mechanism. Like, say something, but then laugh. Like, it's kind of like, um,
Ah,
I like you,
yeah,
but unless you don't like me or don't want me to like you, so no, just totally kidding. So sometimes that's what the laugh does. It's
yeah.
like, here's
Gotcha.
something,
Yeah,
but
I've
I'm
done
not
that. I
laughing.
remember. I've seen myself do that.
And so you can just watch if you're laughing, again, kind of asking, is this really funny to me?
Okay.
Because when you're authentic and you just were, there
Yeah.
was a flow, there was like a womanness, a strong womanness, not like just like more insecure girliness. I'm just trying to
Yeah.
use like frames that might make sense.
Yeah.
So that's something. So I don't feel like you do this very much. Like, say I'm sorry. Sometimes some women say I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, and then in that thing, I coach and guide them to say, instead of sorry, we're going to reframe to like thank you. Thank you
Mm.
for, like, I'm sorry I was late. Thank you for waiting for me. Um, like, I'm sorry I was late. Thank you for your patience. Like, so it's just reframing and saying that. For this with laughing. So that's how I deal with sorriness, and we upgrade that. I used to do it too, but I've upgraded it since I don't say sorry unless I mean it. And I have no problem saying sorry, but I won't say it if I don't really mean it, if it's not necessary. But with the laughing, I've worked with that with
Yeah.
several clients too. And the more you do that, it will, like, just from now on, it will weaken your authenticity. Not that you can't
Okay.
laugh, it's just make sure it's not an automatic laugh that you're not aware of.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's a difference between authentic laughing and inauthentic laughing. So we'll call it inauthentic
Yeah.
laughing.
Yeah.
Mhm. And the more you do
And you're
that,
so right. I've seen myself do that several times when it's an inauthentic laugh, and it's a moment of uncomfortability when I'm taking a step and I don't feel comfortable with it. Yeah. And
and
I
that's where you can embrace the uncomfortability. That's where you can be like,
yeah.
uncomfortability, I'm going to give you a big smooch. I'm going to welcome you like in
Mhm.
Hawaii. I'm going to put a lei around your neck. I'm going to rub your feet. I'm gonna go arm in arm like in the wedding. Here comes the bride. We're gonna walk. We're gonna, me and you, uncomfortability. We're gonna take this step forward together. The more love, focus, attention you give to uncomfortability, it turns into like joy, light, and resource. Like, uncomfortability is a very enjoyable experience if you do it correctly. And correctly is to respect it, to focus on it, to bring the light to it, acknowledge it, treat it like it's treat every emotion like it's a part of you. That's something for self mastery. Is there's a limited amount of emotions that a human being can experience, and whether people frame it as vibrations or emotions, it's the same thing. Every emotion is a vibration, but to treat each one of them as there it's a part of you. And so not to be like, oh, I hate hatred. It's like,
Oh,
that's devil works. It's like, what if you were to love hatred? Doesn't mean what the ego thinks it means. Like, I love hatred and I'm gonna start hating all over it. No, no, no. It's like actually show it love. It's like it's somebody. I was watching this really, really good podcast right now. I don't know the number, but it's a Joe Rogan experience, and it's Dale. What is his name? I have to look it up because it's that important. Because like everyone watching, Daryl Davis. It's literally right here, and it's
Oh, wow.
episode
Cool.
2399.
2399. Awesome.
Daryl Davis is this. I think it's called boogie woogie style of jazz. I think it's jazz where it's like where they can go like this, and it's I don't know if it's like Chuck Berry, but it's a specific boogie woogie. I think it's what it's called. So he's a musician, a piano player, and his whole story. This is the third time he's on Joe Rogan Experience. This is a man who has an extreme level of connected feminine energy. He's converted,
Hmm.
I don't know if it's hundreds or 1,000 KKK skinheads and Nazis, legitimate like Nazis. He's converted them out of those organizations.
Wow.
And he does it through, he calls it these like 5 things. Like, I don't know if this is exactly it's in the episode, but he says like everybody wants to get treated with love. He treats all these people with love, respect. They want to be listened to. Everyone wants to be listened to. Everyone wants what they for their family, the same thing. And then there's one more thing. But I think it's but he does that. And in the interview when he talks about like Ku Klux Klan, there's like imperial wizards and grand dragons and stuff. He treats it with love and respect. He doesn't talk negatively about these things. And his story is really fascinating because he was a child and he grew up in a racist area, but he didn't know about it. But he grew up and everybody he didn't kids don't know they're black or white or Jewish or whatever until an adult tells them. Kids are in their experience. So he didn't know he was something different. And then until the first time he had an experience of racism. And then I think he was like 12 years old. I think him and his family went somewhere and there was like KKK rally coming through his town. And they were saying some things and it didn't register. He didn't have a file for that he was different. And then his whole thing was, how can you hate me if you don't even know me? And so he became just like fascinated. So he actually started treating people with respect and care and like going to these people's homes and getting invited to only black man invited to the KKK rallies. And if like whoever's at the high at the top, if they say he can come, then it's all good. Everybody has to listen, kind of a thing. But so many people have converted and they give him the robes and so he's got like the hoods and robes and stuff. And because he treats that way, and he's such a beautiful example of somebody like to listen to and watch, and how he treats KKK members, Nazis, skinheads, to treat yourself that way, to treat yourself with respect, to treat hatred, to treat anger, fear, insecurity, worry, uncomfortability, all the dark negative emotions. Dark is the absence of light. It doesn't have to be evil. It's the absence of light. So he does a brilliant job. It's part of his purpose to shine light on that. So I would recommend checking him out. And Joe Rogan really asked questions really like he's at the other guy right here. This guy was the head of the, I don't know the names, National Socialist, whatever, it's Nazis, but they framed it different. And Daryl and him, they became really good friends. They speak together because Daryl helped not convert him. And he does it through questions. And he's not trying to, he's like, I'm going to convert you. He's like, he's so curious about them and stuff. And because this guy was told about, this guy didn't grow up racist. Daryl didn't grow up with racism. This guy didn't grow up racist. He learned about racism through these programs. And Joe asked them, how'd you get there? It's really, really fascinating. But Daryl is a really bright, shining light example of how to treat yourself, how to treat negative things. And then if you do that with yourself, you can start doing it with other people. And if you can shine that light, love, care, curiosity on yourself, transformation happens, connection happens. The more you do that, you start doing it for other people, it happens for them too. So I feel like upgrading your relationship with uncomfortability, it's like, you know what? I'm going to give you a smooch. You know what? I'm going to give you a foot massage. Like, how treat uncomfortability like you would your best friend. Who's the
Okay.
person you love the most in your life? What would you give them for a gift?
Mm.
Do that for their uncomfortability. It really does work. But it's not like a
Awesome.
one-time thing. It's like it takes as long as it's going to take because it's a relationship.
Yeah.
People think
Yeah.
relationships are just between people. Relationships between you and everything. Every emotion, there's a different relationship.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They all
Yeah.
matter.
Mm. Awesome. That's
Yeah.
awesome. I love it. Especially this one. I can say it's been a lifelong relationship. So we're working at changing that would be important.
So when we get to like upgrading the root cause, which we did, there still could be like those behaviors, the programs, which is like laughing. It's not like rooted anymore, but you can do that. But the more you become aware of it, it's like, but is this funny? Like laugh if it's funny, but if it's not funny, what do I really want to say? And if it's like, that's going to be a tell for you, I'm sure you're going to do it like at least 17 more times, which is fine. But every time you do catch yourself do that, just say, what do I really want to say? So instead of laughing and be like, I'm uncomfortable and I'm just laughing to lighten the load, don't want to step on any toes, walking on eggshells. Instead of doing that, if you hear the laugh or feel the laugh or see it, if you're someone's recording or whatever, then you can say like, what do I really want to say?
Yeah.
And then share that. If there's uncomfortability, relax into the uncomfortability. Ask the divine, like if you ask the divine to put its hand on you, ask the divine to put its hand on the uncomfortability as well.
Okay.
That is a game changer. So you and then the emotion. If the
Mhm.
divine is touching both, where's the problem? There is no problem, but it has to be conscious.
Okay.
How do you feel about that?
Mm. Good. Good. I need to practice a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, you've practiced for what, like 58 years or something like that?
Just turned 60. So
Yeah. Oh, not 2 years
yeah.
old. It was 12th
But
grade
yeah, it
or
wasn't
second
just so
grade.
yeah, 50 something.
50 or some
50
years.
something.
You've practiced for 50 some years, but if we upgrade the root cause, it's not going to take years to do this. It might take actually weeks or a month or something like that, if you notice. So there's a little practice, but it's not relevant. It's not relative to how long you've been doing it for. So beyond second grade, because that did happen, and now it's reframed, but it did happen. And what was the next part of your timeline that needs to be upgraded, healed, and released because of that? Or has the divine gone forward in your timeline and started to put some magic fairy dust on it?
Um,
Or I can ask it differently.
Pretty much all of it's taken care of with the exception of one event. And that event was my brother disowning me.
How old are you?
Um, 2014. That was, you know, um, it was 2014, so not that long ago.
Okay.
So,
So
yeah.
let's just try the same thing. And not that I'm like talking about lazy coaching, but if it worked once, it'll probably work again, which is pretty efficient. So let's ask the divine if you want. Let's try it on mentally before we do it spiritually. We could give all the resources, all the divine that you have now available to you, and this may or may not work. Let's just try it on try before we buy, so to speak. And then see that door, and then you go through and operate the same situation or scenario, but as the resource you are now. If that's not enough, we could have your future self go do it.
Okay. I got that it was important to do future self.
Okay. How far into the future?
Um,
It's completely open.
4 years.
Okay.
Why?
So ask for that future self that's 4 years down the road from now to come into the room first so you can see what she's wearing, how her posture is.
Hmm.
How you smell, how much divine grace is flowing through.
Hmm. Wow. Okay.
And have her multiply herself, put some big arms, squeeze it around you, but also then the other part multiplied to go in through that sacred doorway.
Okay.
Back to that time and event where your brother disowned you. And ask the you back then if same kind of strategy, like just tap her on the shoulder and say, hey, do you mind if I get this one? Do you mind if I step in? Like dancing. Do you mind if I cut in?
Yeah.
And the you from 2014 should be open to this.
Yeah.
Okay. So have the future self, higher self, step in between the 2014 you and your brother back then now.
Okay.
And ask her just to take over and do her thing.
Mhm.
And ask through her to have that divine grace or divine presence transfer from your future self to your brother, whatever he needs. Just ask the divine to give it to him. It doesn't necessarily have to come from you. It can just come from the divine in the way that works best for him.
Mhm. Mhm. Oh, it switched from I've so many times been working in the past to give forgiveness, forgiveness, forgiveness. And it switched completely to gratitude. It never even dawned on me to have gratitude for him to be doing that. Um, because it made me who I am and who I am to be. That future self, it made me who I am,
It
gave me
couldn't be.
the strength to
It
be
couldn't,
me.
Mhm.
Mm. Didn't even dawn on me to have gratitude for that moment. Oh my God.
Well, gratitude is something that's not like a manual thing, it's an automatic thing. And gratitude is the completion of forgiveness. A lot of people don't understand that. When gratitude happens, not that like you should be grateful for this. Someone tells you you should be grateful for this. It's just not a great strategy. They're shitting on you, of course. And it's a dirty business. So gratitude happens. It's a happening actually when it's the
Yeah.
completion of forgiveness. So it's an automatic experience. And that's how you know
Yeah.
that forgiveness has happened when you experience gratitude.
Yeah.
So, but trying to be grateful doesn't work. You can say thank you, but it's different if you experience gratitude. Like thank you, and I'm so feel so grateful is two different things.
Yeah, it wasn't even a word, it wasn't said, it just is. It's just a feeling that overwhelming gratitude for what happened and who I've become as a result. Because without that, I wouldn't be who I am right now. I wouldn't be free because I was always tied, in a sense, to trying to be loved, trying to fit in to a family that I wasn't, it was like I didn't fit, and it wasn't a spot. It wasn't, it's like trying to put a square peg in a round hole. It wasn't meant to be. What was meant to be happened. Uh, hmm. Yeah.
A cool mantra might be in the future that you could say just these simple words, which is thank you because I couldn't be me without you. And just like say that for 21 minutes straight.
Beautiful.
See how that feels. Thank you.
Yeah.
Couldn't be me without you. It's so true for everybody, for everything and everyone. It's so true. The universal truism.
That feels true. Very true. Yeah. Hmm.
So, is there anything else that needs to happen at this time period before you bring that higher self and younger self back through the sacred doorway?
No, it feels complete.
So, very good. Take all of the time you need and all the resources and lessons and learnings that you've received and bring them back into the present moment through the sacred doorway. And everything can land in the center of your heart and integrate, connect, and grow into one whenever time period feels best.
It feels touch. Hmm.
How
Yeah.
you, how you feeling inside right now?
Awesome. Cool. Yeah.
So let's do that. Let's go back in your timeline all the way before, let's go to first grade, all the way up to now, which is about to get a surgery. Is there anything that needs to be cleared, released, healed, or brought up to the conscious level that will really help with this karmic lesson of neck and throat area?
Hmm. I didn't see anything that needs to be healed, but what I did see was almost like this, like a golden net showing me and collecting all of the experiences that I've had that will help. And because I've had experiences of speaking on stage and performing and singing in front, singing opera in front of people and being in theater. It was like it was collecting all of these things where I've used my voice over and over again and reached people to land in me now, showing, like awakening that I have a lot more resources than I realized.
Mhm.
Mm.
And what specifically is the surgery, if you don't mind sharing with
Say that
me?
again.
So you're getting a surgery on your neck.
Yeah.
What is
Yes.
the surgery going to do?
It's anterior cervical disc fusion, where they are literally replacing the disc from C3 to C7, and then fusing them on the front of the neck to give my curvature correct back. And then it's because I have osteoarthritis, and the vertebrae are shrinking
Impressive.
down and pinching nerves down my arm and hand.
So you're going to get a little bit taller.
I'm going to get taller.
Mhm.
I will get taller. It will open that space up, physically open that space up.
It's so interesting because deeper psychological traumas stacked over decades that's why like young girls drive from a side view. They do this because it's insecurity.
Yeah.
Actually they're hiding their heart center. Um, People they don't shrink when they compress. And
Right.
why do they compress? I mean, if a person's not using their body when they get older, stretching their mental map, if they're not growing, then either we grow or we die. So if we get close towards that, so for you having this huge part that it's not safe to be your authentic self and speak your truth, and more opportunities, like every opportunity you didn't take, it's like a millimeter down more. And so
Yeah.
that's why this is a really good divine timing to not only do this, but then to release, because sometimes like people get like a heart transplant and then sometimes the body attacks it. It treats it like a foreign thing. And the reason is because you got to do internal work to do, I'm
Yeah.
not talking about like internal physically, but internal spiritually, psychological work to make things in alignment is what we're doing. So for us to
Yeah.
release those cords and ties, it would just open up for that surgery to flow. And then, yeah, for the rest of your life, just like be a
Yeah.
beacon of light.
Yeah. 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 And that's what I kept seeing every time I asked, I totally believe everything that happens to us has a deeper spiritual meaning or a gift that's there. And I kept asking, well, what is this surgery bringing? Why are you here? Why is this happening? What are you here to teach me? And that's what every time kept coming through was remember, it was like a memory of that shutting down, and then what I was told, that I have something to give, I have something to say, um, to help people. And I realized here I am for so many years I haven't done it. And then I
You have
saw my
in
repetitive
certain,
shrinking back from it and not doing it over and over and over again. I was like, oh, okay.
you have in
So
some ways,
this
to be
was,
fair.
say again.
You have in some ways, to be fair. It's not like you have never not helped nobody. You have in
Right.
some
Yeah.
ways, but you
Yes.
didn't where
Yes.
you got that divine guidance and you're like, oh nope.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I would take a step and then not finish, and take another step and then not finish. And yeah, it was taking a step and then shrinking back. It was a repeating pattern that I would never completely do all of it. Yeah. So, yeah.
yeah. So ask your unconscious mind, your body, and the divine, do you feel complete for what you showed up for today? Is there anything else that you need?
I feel complete.
Big deal.
Yeah.
You did a great job.
Awesome. Thank you. Hmm.
You're welcome. What do you feel like this is going to just open up for you to do? How's the future look differently?
Um, Future looks differently, that I'm going to be reaching out to a lot more people. I'm posting a lot more on Facebook and other places. So, um, hmm, yeah. So that's mostly what I've been feeling called to do, but putting off. I do reach out where it's, how should I say? I've been noticing where I've been reaching out has been in the safe spaces, the DMs and emails and reaching out to people I know and, hey, refer me. That's been working. But I also noticed that it's not reaching, how should I say, I think I am reaching people and helping, but it's not reaching the people I'm meant to. Kind of like in that classroom.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm reaching
And
a
that-
few, but
yeah.
not all the ones that are meant to hear it. Yeah.
And now you have the internal upgrades to put yourself in the right environment to meet the right people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Big air hug from Texas.
Oh, same, same. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for being a part of the light and showing people that like what's possible. Like I'll keep saying this over and over again. Like this is the news. This is the most important thing. I feel like this should be showcasing is the transformation is possible. That just because there's any sort of issues or stunted growth or lack of getting to the next level of life, it's because there's a younger part that needs to be addressed, and it's just
Yeah.
we cannot do it all on our own because we're not meant to. So thank you for showing people. A lot of people are going to be just healing. There's going to be some tears just by watching this. And so thank you for help spreading the light. I really appreciate you.
Thank you. I appreciate you so much.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.